Proverbs 30, 1 Samuel chapter 1. Before I go there, I was thinking on our verse that I've been meditating on. I told you, I was telling you Thursday night the purpose of our church is prayer. That is the purpose for the church. Prayer, praise, those kinds of things. He said, and I sought for a man among them that should make up the head and stand in the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it. But I found, how many found? None. And I mentioned Thursday, I think I mentioned last week again, I mentioned last week also, that we ought to be able to, instead of saying none, we ought to take a pencil and mark out that end. I don't want you doing that in your King James Bible. I don't want you marking out part of your King James Bible. I am not of the kings who would say take a penknife and take something out of your Bible. But in our mind, in our heart, we ought to have that written down, big letters, but I found none, and cross out that end and say, dear God, let me be the one. So that we can get rid of the none and make it one. That should be our heart's desire. God, whom shall I send who will go for us to the prayer closet? Here am I, let it be me. Let it be me. But that has nothing to do with what we're about to preach on, teach on, but it's my heart. I want to look at verse number 9 of 1 Samuel chapter 1. Now, I want you to mark Proverbs 30. We'll be over there in a few moments. But it said, so Hannah rose up after they had eaten at Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Well, let's start verse 7. And and as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then we go on down to verse 8. He said, then said Elkanah, her husband, to her, Hannah, why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved? Am not I better to thee than 10 sons? And Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by the post of the temple of the Lord, and she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaid, remember me, and not forget thy handmaid, but will give unto thy handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass that she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. And we find in verse 22, but Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. And verse 28, therefore also have I lent him to the Lord, as long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord there. Then it says, and Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoiceth in the Lord, my horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoiced in thy salvation. There is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside thee, neither there any rock like our God. What changed between the prayer in verse 9, or verse 10 of chapter 1, and verse 1 of chapter 2? Who knows? Answered prayer. Answered prayer. But Hannah went not up, for she said to her husband, I will not go up till a child be weaned. So she had lent her child to the Lord. Now I want to deal with this because I find some things about Hannah and I want to apply them to us. I want to preach on this thought or teach on this thought, a sweetheart but not satisfied. A sweetheart but not satisfied. Taking that thought. She was his sweetheart. You heard him say. She said in verse number, Elkanah, her husband, verse number 8, Hannah, why weepest thou? Why eatest thou? And why is thy heart grieved? Am not I better to thee than 10 sons? The answer is no. No. I know I'm your sweetheart. I know you love me. And I like fellowshipping with you. But I want a son. I want a son. Now I'll tell you this. Hannah started out this thing with her heart hurting because God had shut her womb. The verse in verse number 5, but Hannah had given me he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah. But the Lord had shut up her womb. You notice that. The Lord had shut her womb. Now, is it not enough that the barren be the beloved? No. Why? Because the first thing a woman wants to do is she wants to give her husband children. The second thing I find about Hannah is she wanted to give herself children. But the third thing I find about Hannah is she ended up wanting to give the Lord children. I say that because of the fact that I see in verse, her first desire was to give her husband children, but then Hannah, her adversary, and also provoked her sore, were to make her fret because the Lord had shut up her womb. She wanted her children for her own benefit, that she might consume it upon her own love, that she might flaunt it in front of Peninnah. I say that. I will ask this. When was the last time God gave you children? Or do you have a barren womb? You say, well, I'm not a woman. You're the bride of Christ. And our job as the bride is to bring forth the babes. And I ask this question. When was the last time you won somebody to Christ? When was the last time you birthed the baby? I ask these questions because does not your barrenness bother you? Does not the fact that we have seen, I've seen a couple of people profess Christ in this church. They blew out on God. I don't know if they got saved or didn't get saved. We'll find out one of these days. But what is it, the barren womb? Why is it that it does not bother us that we have a barren womb? Proverbs tells us in Proverbs 30, verse 15, the horse thief had 2 daughters crying, give, give. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, yea, 4 things say not, it is enough. The grave, the barren womb, the earth that is not filled with water, and the fire that saith not, it is enough. The natural, now I know women don't have natural affection these days, I understand They're raised up nowadays to get you a job, get you a career, and don't worry about having babies. I will say this. The one thing a woman can do that a man cannot do naturally is bear children and birth children. A man can't do it. You say, well, you're being pretty gender specific. Women bear babies. We are the bride of Christ. Where are our babies? Why are we not seeing babies born? Why do we not see babies birth? And I am not for the shallow, say a prayer, repeat after me garbage. And I call it garbage because that's all it is. It's junk. You can junk the junk. I'm talking about real babies, real travail. Paul says, I travail for you again in birth until we Christ be formed into you. A woman's in travail. Matter of fact, John tells us in John 16, John makes this statement. I'm not going to be long. I'm just trying to bring us a thought here. In John 16, verse number 21, John says, a woman, when she is in travail, has sorrow, because her hour is come, but as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remembered no more the anguish for joy that a man is born into the world. What happened with Hannah? A baby was born, and it changed everything. I ask this question. Does your barrenness bother you? That you have not won anybody to Christ in a while? I ask this question. Do you have bitterness of soul because you can't win a soul? The Bible tells us that she was in bitterness of soul. How much is your soul hurt because you hadn't seen souls saved? I ask this question because this is our problem. In our society, they have shallowed salvation to the point to where you can sit in a room full of people and say, does anybody here want to go to heaven? Raise your hand. And nobody wants to go to hell unless they're unless they're some kind of nut. So they raise your hand and say this prayer, and you're going to heaven. You say, why did they do that? Because there's no travail over soul. They want to see babies birth, but they do not want to go through the birthing process. Verse 11 tells us that she came to the place where she'll give God all the glory if He gave her grace to get to see souls saved. Verse 7. To see a baby birth. If thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaid and remember me, and not forget thy handmaid, but will give unto thy handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. She said, God, if you give me the grace to have this child, I'll let you have all the glory for him. I'll let you have him in your place, in your presence, for your work. I won't even get the pleasure of watching him grow up. I've got a barren woman. I want to see a baby born. You see her heart? It was God. It's all for you now. I want this badly. I would call Hannah a prize, but not productive. Because she did not have the product of the womb. there's a void. Do you want victory? Well, I want to tell you how it happened. If it's so much, that much passion for a spiritual birth or for a physical birth, should there not be that kind of passion for a spiritual birth? I will tell you how this happens. And I know that y'all know how a physical birth happens. And the Bible is very clear that this is what happens. So I'm not going to be going anywhere but the Bible. But and Elkanah knew his wife, and she and the Lord remembered her. So here's the thing: if you want spiritual babies, first of all, you got to spend time knowing the Lord. Spend time knowing the Lord. If you do not have intimate, special time with the Lord, we will never have birth. So there first must be a desire. Number two, there must be a spending time with the Lord. A willingness to give him to the Lord. She did not, she did all the work. She buried him for 9 months. She weaned him. She did everything, and she turned him over to God. Just like she promised. I ask this question because I've got a real burden. Now I say having a baby, number one, it'll cost you your energy. Any of you women who had a child will find out that they eat from you while you're carrying that child. So you're going to get tired more often. You're going to, so you lose your energy because why? The baby is absorbing nutrients from your body. That's why they try to give them certain medication, or not medications, but nutrients. They've got all kinds of, I don't want to call them medicines, vitamins and stuff they give, prenatal vitamins and stuff. Why? Because of the fact that there's so much energy that's being drawn into this child. You try to make sure that the woman's on a diet that she can give healthy stuff to this child. Because a child, if you're going to have a child, it's going to take your energy. Let me say this, it'll change your lifestyle. I've known women who were smokers and drinkers, who when they were with child, you know what they did? They quit smoking and drinking. Say, why? Because when you're having a baby, you want to have a baby, and you want it to be a healthy baby, you are not going to do things, put things into your body that are unhealthy. You want spiritual children. Change our lifestyle. There must be a change in lifestyle. Say, how do you change our lifestyle? Can you be more holy than you are? Can you be more separated unto God than you are? In any area. Let me say, it changes your figure. You say, what? What? I'm not. I'm telling you what. When my wife was with child, because her figure changed, we had to buy tents. Miss Debbie made those tent dresses, remember?
No.
You don't remember them tent dresses?
No, she didn't make them.
She didn't make them? Oh, Miss Debbie didn't make them. Who made the tent dresses?
The older lady down the street.
Oh, the old lady down the street.
Texas. Not Tennessee.
Never mind, it wasn't Tennessee. The old lady down the street.
Miss Ruth.
Huh?
Ruth Coleman.
Miss Ruth made tent dresses. Why? Why does Miss Ruth make the tent dresses? Because my wife's figure changed. You say, what? She's carrying a load. Now, I see pictures of Miss Megan Red. Miss Megan Red got a 7-pound baby inside her, something like that. They say it might be 10 pounds by the time they finally take the baby out. That's a big baby. I'm just trying to get you to understand. And you've got to be willing to go all the way to the brink of death. You want to have a baby? Let me that one of the things they say, and on this abortion thing, I'm not going to debate abortion with you. They say, what about the life of the mother? Can I say, pregnancy is dangerous, even at the moment of birth. You say, why? Because that's a baby trying to be born. It puts a lot of stress on your heart, puts a lot of stress on your body. If the baby turns, it can tear up things on the inside. I mean, things can happen. I'm trying to get you to understand. If you want spiritual children, it's going to cost us. But it started with the fact that she got to such a place where she was so burdened about it that she said, I'm not going to eat. And I'm going to cry. I want a baby. She wept and did not eat, verse number 7. She wept sore in verse number 10. I'd ask you this. You want a baby? Now listen. It's great to have people move in Shelbyville or to drive in Shelbyville from Franklin or Fairland or some other far off land and join our church. But that's not the way God planned this thing. They added to the church daily as many as should be saved. The Bible tells us in Acts 5:14, and the believers were the more added to the church, multitude both men and women. Verse 2, chapter 2, verse 47, the Lord added to the church daily as should be saved. God grew the church. That's His job. Hannah had a burden. She wanted a baby. Then she broke down all the way to the place where she said, I'm not going to eat, and all I'm going to do is weep and cry before God. And I'm going to pour out my soul before God until He answers. So when I say we need to pray for the souls of Shelbyville and pray that God will grow the church, pray that God will give us laborers, this is what the Bible teaches us. This isn't pastor saying, I'm getting tired. This is pastor saying, I'm refired. I believe we need to pray for souls. I'm asking God to give us souls. I'm asking God to bring them in. I'm not saying we're not going out. I'm talking about God, though, bringing them in. We can go out all the time. We've been around this town 3 or 4 times in the last 6 years. I want to see souls saved. I've got a state, I've got a community, a city that's in despair, desperate, and they don't even know it. Moorestown 7 miles away. Between here and there, there's people that don't even know there's a God in heaven. We live in America. And I told you, I just went through 4 states. And I'm praying across the country. And the fastest growing group of people are nuns, and they ain't Catholic. N-O-N-E-S. They say, what's your religious belief? I have none. Agnosticism, Gnosticism, agnosticism, atheism, all those things, all it means is I don't know anything. I think I know something, but I don't know anything. I don't know if there is a God. I don't believe there is a God, and I don't know what to do because I'm confused. That's my message. What are we going to do? You want babies. I remember a wife. Tell the story. A wife. She's mine. She got so upset. Baby shower. Baby shower. She says, I want a baby. And I said, am I not better than thee than 10 sons? She said, I said, listen, you keep telling me I act like a child half the time. I said, am I not better than thee than 10 sons? She'd get upset with me about that. Baby showers come along, she'd not want to go. Why? Because she wanted a baby. I like going to churches still where people get saved. But you know, it disappoints me and discourages me in one sense because of the fact that I want that. That's what I want to see. I want to see somebody to where they get in church. I don't have to be the one who leads them to Christ per se. They get in church. They go down even at the Southern Baptist Church. They get back in the van after we go to the Southern Baptist Church to go see something, to go to some big thing. They get in the van and say, got saved, or I'm saved, or something like that. And all excited. Pastor asked me to go up to the pastor and said, I need to get baptized. And the pastor said, well, when you get saved? I told y'all this the other night, I'm saved. What happened? Dr. Rogers gave a good invitation after the presentation that they were at Bellevue in Memphis, and the young man that I'd have to knock on his door, and they got him in church, and then God moved them in there. They got settled in there. Hallelujah! Got born again. Say, what happened? Man, I rejoice. Say, why? They got saved. When was the last time you buried a baby? When was the last time you were part of somebody getting saved? If it does not bother you to have a barren womb, you say it's enough. You don't have natural birth. God said the barren womb does not say it is done. My 4 and no more.